Hey guys, I'm Christine, a designer here at Zurb. Recently, we've been using a lot of cards in our projects, and with the most recent release of Foundation 6.3, it's easier than ever to implement cards in your designs. But that doesn't mean that they always look great. So here are 5 common mistakes that designers use when designing cards. Number 1, large visual gaps from different content lengths. So it's super easy to make really nice and pretty cards in your sketch files, but once it's all coded up, the responsive cards can take up the space of your titles, descriptions, buttons, and anything else that can fluctuate the sizing of your cards. This can make your site look disorganized and probably ruin the entire site as a whole. So when this happens, we consider 3 things to fix it. First, will the user still understand what's being said if we come up with some sort of character count? Will we be losing any information? See if your titles and descriptions will make sense when they're truncated. Secondly, we ask if our content can be displayed in a masonry layout. This usually works best for content that is meant to be simply perused and not tediously scanned. Lastly, we see if we can shift the content inside the card to make it work in one column on all screen sizes, letting the card be as short or as tall as they need to be, and also letting us keep the information dense on the site. Number 2, too many cards visible at once. I know it can be super tempting to use the entire space of your screen, especially when you're building a dashboard or an application where users love to see everything at once. In most cases though, too many cards can be overwhelming to your users and can cause them to strain while looking at your page. Just like text line strength, we want to find out how much content a user can reasonably take in at any given time without losing their place. We suggest setting a max width on your card containers to control this issue, but there's no magic number for how many cards is too many cards. We suggest doing some basic user testing to discover your magic number for your particular use case. Number 3, too many actions at various areas of the card. One of the most valuable things about cards is that they're small bits of content that can act as a gateway for users to find additional information or actions to take. Sometimes using actions like a trash can or a gear icon to represent trash or settings buttons can make sense, but adding an action to every aspect of your card can become more confusing than useful to the user. This usually happens when a client or a project owner wants too much out of each card. Instead, try thinking about which actions are necessary and then grouping them by importance or type. This gives us the opportunity to identify and unify a few key actions to their easily found spots at the bottom of your card. Number 4, overloading cards with content. Like we mentioned in number 2, it can be really tempting to throw a whole bunch of information onto the screen at once. But piling on too much bite-sized information onto the screen can be too much for the user to chew. Outlining the most important content is a great way to keep your cards focused. In order to do this, you'll need to know who's using your product and for what purpose. You can use this information to help you rule out the outliers and trim your card data to the minimum that users need, and then go into drilling down into other sources of information. Number 5, forcing a visual when one isn't needed. Sometimes using visuals in your cards can be really useful, but they're not always necessary. When my fellow designers and I use images in our cards, we often ask ourselves why. Is this helping our users get to what they're looking for, or is it just a roadblock getting in the way? Usually this is a symptom of poor understanding of composition and a necessity to rely on images to break up your content. A really great way to battle this is to do some typographic experimentations. Take a closer look at your content order and hierarchy and play around with it until your card is balanced and clear. So play your cards right. With Foundation 6.3, it's never been easier to code and style cards in your designs. Click the link below to download the newest version of Foundation 6.3 so you can get started with all of its amazing new features. And if you haven't yet, check out our newest lesson about how exactly to implement and style these cards in Foundation 6.3. We've included the link below, so go ahead and check that out. And that's it. That's 5 common mistakes that designers usually make when using cards in their designs. If you've liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all of our design videos. Bye!